Okay, so in this session, we will discuss how we can work with nested children parent element. So last time we have discussed XPath. So we have seen how we can locate element using XPath. Let's now we understand more about in XPath. So check here this diagram. In this diagram, you can check here, this is a root element, we can say. This is a root element, and now root element start here and close here. Under this element, we have one more element. Now we have one more element, that is a body. Body is the parent element of, we can say, for div, h1, yes, no. Table is, who is the parent for table element? Parent, direct parent is a div element. Div is the direct parent of the table element. And under table we have tr, td. Tr is the child element of the table tag, and td is the child element of tr. So here we have some parent child element, yes, no. So suppose we have one element, under that element we suppose this element contain another element. So this element we can call as the child element, and outer element we can call as the parent element for inner element. So there might be chance, suppose we have one element, under this element we have another element, under this element we have one more element. So this is the innermost element, which is the parent for this is, this one is the parent element for this. This is the direct parent, yes, no? But indirectly this is also parent, yes, no? But direct parent this one. And which is the direct child of this element, outer element? This one is the direct child element of the outer element. And who is the child element of this element? This one is the child element of this element. So how we can locate element, parent and child element? Let's now we understand one by one. So watch this diagram. Here you can check here. Here we have one span element. Span, we can say this is a current element. Under this span element, we have several anchor tag elements. This one, this is a child element. So we need to find the X path for the current node, and we need to write down X path for locating all the child element of which parent span element. So I want to find out all the child element of this parent element. So this span is the parent element of all this child element. So how we can, yes, no, we can locate. We need to select. How we can select? First of all, we try to understand how we can select current node. So let's now we open this URL, yes, no, in Chrome browser. And here you can check here, and here you can use selector hub to write an XPath. So here we want to locate which element. I want to locate, you can check here, you can this element. So you can check here which one is the element. This is a div element. Now under this div, we can check here, we have li element. Under li, you can check here, we have one. So now you can check here. If you watch here, now here you can check this element. Which is the parent for this element? UL tag. UL tag is the parent element. So I need to locate which one element. Let's now we click here. This is the parent element. How we can find this element? How we can find this element? Current node. Under this element, you can check that we have several li tags. Yes, no? So let's we have tried to find this element first of all. So I need to write a X path to locate that element. So which element I need to locate? UL text slash /UL. I need to locate that element. And now with okay, suppose here class attribute at the rate class, we can say at the rate class attribute value equal to service. What is the class? Service. You can check the class name. You can copy this class name service underscore list, service underscore list. Just copy this. Now locate that element. Now you can check it. It's selecting that one element. It's selecting that element. Now what we require to do, I need to select all the child element of this current node. So which one is the child? You can say this one is the li tag is the child element. And now under we have, you can check here, this RLI is the child element of this UL tag. So I need to select all the child element of this UL tag. If you want to select yes, no, child element of the current node, so how you can select child element of the current node? So this is a current node that I have selected. And then here you can write slash slash child if you want to select all the child element of the current node. And then you can write double colon and which element li. So here, okay, this path is saying invalid. So you can remove this one. Okay. First select this one. After that you can write double slash, and then you can write child colon which child. I need to select li child. Okay, here we need to write double colon and li tag. So now you can check it. It's selecting how many element? It's selecting 7 element. So if you want to find the XPath of all children element of the current node, you can find using child. Yes, no? So you can specify the current node, and now you want to find the all child element of the current node. Then you can write slash slash child and then double colon, and then you can specify that child element. So which child element you want to find of the current node? Li. So how many element it's selecting? It's selecting 7 element. Here you can check it. Okay, if you want to select the first child element, suppose I want to select first child element, then how you can select? Okay, so this one give all the child element of the current node. If you want to select first child element of the current node, then you can write square bracket and then you can specify their index. So now you can check here which one is selecting. It's selected first one element. You can check this first li is selected. If you want to select any particular element, a particular child element, yes, no. So I want to select fourth one child element. So here you can write fourth index position. Now you can check here. Now fourth children element is selected. So in this way, we can select child element and specific child element also. So if you want to write an XPath where you want to select all the child element of the current node, then you can write XPath for selecting the current node and then double slash and then you can use here child and the double colon and you can specify that element. So here now we are selecting which element. Now here we are selecting which element. Here we are selecting which element. Here we are selecting all the children element of this current node. Okay, if you check here in this URL bar, okay, if you check here, sorry, now we inspect that element. So now this is the parent element div. Div is the parent element. Under this element, we have this input element and we have button. We have this element. So if you want to select any child element, what is the syntax you need to write down? Current node, then space, then child you can write, and then colon, you can specify tag name. You can specify tag. So it's selecting all the child element. Let's now we want to select parent. How we can select parent? Okay, let's understand. Here you can check here. Suppose now here you can check here. You can select this, and now this is the input element. I need to select input element. I need to select that input element, and this input element ID is a text. What the ID? Text. So let's now we select this input element. How we can select this input element? So slash slash input. Now we selecting this current node whose ID attribute at the rate, yes no, ID equal to text. Now we are selecting that element. Now you can check here how element is selected. One element is matched. But which is one the parent element of this input element? I need to find yes no parent element. So I even want to select which parent element. I want to select div parent element. Which one is the parent element of this one? Div. So I want to select I want to find the XPath of parent element of the current node. Whatever current node you have selected, if you want to find the child element of the current node, so then you can write slash slash child double colon and you can specify element name, tag name, that child element you want to select of the current node. But if you want to select parent node of the current element, then what you can do, if you want to select parent element of the current node, then you can write double slash and here you can write parent, which is parent, and then double colon and you can specify tag name. Suppose I'm specified div. So now you can check here how many element is selected. One element selected. So which one is the direct parent? This one is the direct parent. You can check here. Now it's selecting one. So in this way, you can check here. It's selecting that one. Now if you want to select parent element, yes, no. So if you want to select parent element, then you can add double slash and then you can write parent and then double colon and which parent you can specify the parent that you want to select. And now if you're writing here, suppose asterisk, what happens? Now you can check asterisk. If you're writing here, you can check still how many element is selecting. It will select the parent node of the input tag, yes, no, input tag whose ID equal to text. It's selecting which element? It's selecting parent element of the input tag of ID equal to text. In this way, you can select. So how you can select parent element of the current node and how you can select child element of the current node. So if you want to select child element of the current node, you can write yes no current node and after that you can write child colon and then double colon and then you can specify tag name. So it means it's selecting all the child element of the current node. It's selecting which child element, whatever child element here you have mentioned. Similarly, if you want to select parent element of the current node, you can write parent double colon tag name. So it will select the parent element of the current node, which parent element, whatever tag name you mention here. Now we have self-access element. So we have here discussed parent access, current access, and now you can check in the diagram. So here you can check in the diagram. So this is your parent access. Sorry. Parent access. Now we understand the ancestor access. What means of ancestor access? Let's understand ancestor access. So here you can check that this is a TD tag. Yes or no? TD. And now under TD we have label. So label and we have label. And under label, suppose this is a current node. I am selecting this input element. Yes, and this is a current node. So this is a current node. Which one the parent node of the current one? So this label is the parent node of the current node. And if you talk about TD, TD is the grandparent become. It is the grandparent of the current node. Which is the direct parent of the input element? This label. So this become as a parent node of this current node. and TD become as a grandparent of the current node. So I need to select Manchester. Which one we want to select? Manchester. And Chester axis, what does it select? All the Manchester element. It select all the Manchester element, parent, grandparent, and great grandparent of the current node. If you want to select all the ancestor, not only parent. If you writing here, suppose which one is the current element? Input element slash slash input ID equal to something. It means you are selecting that input element with ID something. This is a current element. I want to select all ancestor element of the current element. So if you want to select all the ancestor element of the current node, yes, no. So here you can write slash slash ancestor. So ancestor axis select all the ancestor element like parent, grandparent, great grandparent of the current node. So this axis always contain root node. Yes, no? Okay, you can open here facebook.com page. You can go to the browser and now you can check here. If you try to open facebook.com, here you have login button. You can check here. Here you have login button. In this facebook page.com, you can inspect that element. Right click and you can inspect that element. This login button you can inspect. Once you inspect this login button, you can check here. In this login button, you can check here. This is a button. And now, which one is the child element? You can check here. Which one is the child element? This is the current element, which is the parent element, div element. Div is the parent element. This one is the parent element. So I want to select what we want to select. Suppose I want to select all the ancestor element of the current element. So if you want to select all the ancestor element, yes, no, of the current node, how we can write? Let's understand. We can select this input element. So I'll select the button slash slash which element? Button element. We need to select button element. And now I want to select which button element. Okay, let's say a name equal to login at the rate name attribute equal to login. I am selecting all this. Which element you can check here? You can write selector have, sorry, here you can write slash slash button. You need to select button slash at the rate ID. You can check it at the rate. I'm selecting which input element. I'm selecting input element here. We can check here. We can select input element, input element at the rate ID equal to, suppose I'm selecting that element. If you press enter, you can check here. Now it's selecting that button. Yes, no? If you press enter, you can check here. It's selecting that element. Current. This is a current element. Slash slash input at the rate ID equal to something. So I'm selecting this element. You can check here once again. Which element I want to, suppose you want to select this element. You can check here their ID. How many element is selecting? You can check it. Zero element is showing. Okay, it's showing zero element is selected. So slash slash button at the rate name. We are using name. Yeah, name login. It's selecting how many element? It's selecting one element. You can check your button is selected. This is your current element. I want to select all the ancestor element. Yes, no? Which one is the ancestor? All the div. So I'm writing slash slash ancestor. Ancestor. Okay, sorry. Square bracket. And after that, we need to write down ancestor. You can check it. You can select ancestor, and here we are selecting which ancestor element. All the div ancestor. If you press enter, you can check it. How many element is selecting? 10 element is selected. 10 div element. You can check it. Which is the director parent? This one is also parent, and this div is also grandparent. Yes, no. So it's selecting how many 10 element is matching. 10 element is matching. Okay, if you're selecting, suppose I want to select which ancestor, all the label ancestor. You can check there is no label. Yes, no. If you select TD, no label. Yes, no. If you write it div, you can check it. Ancestor colon. Yes, no. You can check it. Div, you can select. If you want to select form, you can check it. How many elements selected? One form is selected. How many div element is selected? You can check it. Div. So you can use ancestor access. Ancestor access actually used to select all the ancestor element of the current node. If you want to select all the ancestor element of the current node, then you can write / ancestor tag them. So here we have seen how we can select parent node of the current node. If you want to select the parent node of the current node, then you can write yes, no, / parent tag name. Yes, no. If you want to select all the child elements / child tag name. If you want to select all the ancestor element of the current node, so ancestor tag name, you can write. So in this way, you can select ancestor element. Now we have discussed this descendant, how we can select descendant element. Let's understand. Okay, descendant. So you can check here. Suppose this is a div. This is a div is the current element. This is a current element. And now here P is the child element. P is the child element of the current node. Now P tag open from here and close here. P is the child element. And now we have one more child element. So we can say P under P we have, you can check a paragraph. We have in some input element. Yes, no. We have some input element and we have another element. So these are called, we can say, grandchildren node of the current node. This is a current node. Under that current node, we have this paragraph, this paragraph. This is a child, but within this child element can have another child. So we can say that is the grandchildren of the current node. So you need to find, yes, no, if you require to find which element I need to find, suppose this input element. I need to find all the input element, yes, no. So of the current, which is the current node? Div. So div, first of all, find the current node, and then you require to find all the descendant, all the children. So descendant access, what does it select? All the descendant element like children and grandchildren, etc. of the current node. So you can use yes or no. You can select yes no. If you want to select, you can select descendant element also. Descendant access, what does descendant access used to select all the children and grand element, all the children as well as grand element. So using descendant selector, we can select all the descendant element. In the descendant comes children and grandchildren. So here we have seen how we can select child element, child access, parent access, ancestor access, as well as descendant access. So you can use descendant access also. Let's now we implement one example and try to understand. So let's we open the Facebook here. Now we open new URL. You can check here. In this URL, you can check here. We have here sign up button. Yeah, scroll down. You can check here. Okay, you can close this one. This is the, here you can check this is the URL. Let's understand. Here you have username. If you right click on the username and you can click on inspect. You can click inspect. Go to the inspect. Now you can check. You have selected this input element. Yes, no? And this is a paragraph. This is a paragraph. So what is the current and now? And here we have div element. You can check it. Suppose this is a current element. Sign up. Let's find the first of all current node. So now we need to write XPath. Yes, no? To select the current node. How we can write XPath to select the current node? Slash which one element you want to select? Div element. Div, and using which attribute? Div at the rate class attribute. Class attribute value equal to here. What is the class attribute value? At the rate class equal to, okay, class equal to, I give the class attribute value, sign up underscore form underscore new. I am selecting that input element. So it's not selecting any element. Why? Let's understand. You can write, you can copy this sign up, copy this one and write down again slash I am selecting div element. You can check it. Which div element, whose class attribute value equal to sign up form new. So at the rate, here we are using class selector, at the rate class equal to sign up form new. So I'm selecting that element. One element is selected. You can check one div element is selected. Now what we need to do, I need to select all the descendant of the current node. If you want to select all the descendant, what my requirement? I need to select all the descendant element of the current element. All the descendant input element. So slash descendant, we can write descendant and descendant. Which descendant you want to find? I want to descendant all the input element. So you can check here. If you press enter, how many input elements selected? Is selected 4 input elements. 4 input, 4 children descendant element is selecting of the current node. So in this way, you can select all the descendant elements of the current node. If you want to select any particular in first descendant, so you can write 1. Yes, no, you can check here. So now it's selecting which one? It's selecting first descendant. And now you can specify their index also. Yes, no. So in this way, you can select descendant element. So you can select the descendant element also. So here we have seen, yes, no, how we can select parent element, child element, yes, no, ancestor and descendant. Now we understand following, yes, no, following access. Okay, in case of following access, let's understand what the following access. Following access actually select all the element in the document after closing tag of the current. So what means of this? Let's understand follow element. Which element we can call as a following element? So here you can check here. If you talk about the following element, which one element is called as a following element? Let's first understand the following element. Following means, suppose you have this input element. Now input element is open. Now you have closed the input element. And the following access means selecting all the element in the document after closing the tag. Yes, no? Of the current node. After the current node, yes, no? Suppose we have opened the label and now close the label. After this closing tag, which element is started? I want to select that element. I want to select all those elements. So I want to select all those elements, yes, no, which is directly follow. So here you can check here. Let's understand following element. Before understand following element, let's understand here. So which one is the following? What means the following element? So here you can check here. Okay, let's now we selecting any element here. Let's be selecting this button, this input. Now here you can check here. Okay, you open this one. Suppose Google. Okay. After anchor tag, you can check it. Opening and close tag. After this, which element is started? Yes, no? So after closing the tag, whatever element is follow, I want to select all those elements. Let's check this diagram also, and then you get a clear picture. So you can check here. Here we have female, yes, no. So we have a spare element. Suppose this is the input is the current node. This is a current node. I want to find all those element with female element. Yes, no. Match node with female element. So this input element, all this input element, I need to follow all the label tag. All the label tag. Like yes, no. So here you can check here. Understand following siblings. Following sibling, what does? Following sibling, following element, and following sibling. Following sibling, select all the sibling node after the current node at the same level. It will find the element after the current node. Okay, if you talk about following element, so in the following element, how you can select? Let's understand first following element and then following sibling. Go to the browser, and here we need to understand following element and following sibling element. Now here, which one is the following element? Let's now here we selecting any node. Suppose I'm selecting, okay, this div element. This is a current element. Yes, no. Suppose this is a current element. I'm selecting this div element. Now after div tag, yes, no. Which element is started? I want to follow. Yes, no. Double slash. I'm using following. What we are using? Following. You can check it. Following. So using following. You can check it. There is no following element after that. Suppose I'm writing A, so there is no follow. Four element is matches. You can check it. So after div, which one is the following element? You can check after div also. Where is the div is closed? And after div, how many element is following? Four element. And following sibling, what does it? Select all the sibling node after the current node at the same level. If you want to select all the sibling, yes, no, here you can check here. If you want to the following sibling, so here you can check following sibling A. You can check it. So how many following sibling is selected? It's selecting zero element. There is no following sibling. Following sibling, what does it will select all the sibling node after the current node at the same level. It means it will find the element after the current node. It will find the element after the current node. So for example, here you have seen in this diagram, you can check here. If you watch this diagram once again, here radio button, here we have radio button of female and female text. We can say both are sibling. Both are sibling. Radio button of male and female, both are sibling. Open the facebook.com once again. You can check here in this Facebook form. You have sign up form. You can check here. Here you have female and male gender. So following sibling means it select all the sibling node after the current node. Okay, let's inspect that element. You can inspect that element. You can inspect that element. So this is a label, yes, no? And now on this is a label, and this is the input element. Input type equal to radio. Input type equal to radio. So what we need to do? Suppose I need to select. Okay, go to the selector hubs, and here you need to write down. I want to select input element. Input element at the rate ID attribute. I want to use at the rate. Okay. There is no ID attribute for this input element. You can check here input element. There is any ID for that input element. There is no ID. You can select element with name also. Suppose name is a set. So here you can use name attribute. I'm selecting name equal to x. Now it will select, you can check, it select 3 element, yes, no? Now I need to select all the following sibling. So double slash, there is no following sibling. Okay, there is no following sibling. Okay, watch this diagram. What means of the following sibling? Here you can check here. Radio button of the female and female text are the sibling, we can say, in this page. Why you can check a sibling means selecting all the sibling node after the current node at the same level. So you can say this is a span tag. This is the current node, yes, no? This is a span tag, open and close. Under this span tag, yes, no? Under this span tag, you have input element and label. You have input element and label. What you have input element? So suppose this input element is your current node. And now after this input element, I want to select, yes, no? I want to select which node? I want to select immediately after which element is come, yes, no? So which element is come after label? Label is the sibling, yes, no? Why? Because sibling what select? It select all the sibling node after the current node at the same level. So after this current node, all the nodes which are available in the same label. So it will select all those elements. After input element, you can check here. Span element is also there. Yes, no, and other label is also there, but not which one is selecting. It's selecting all the sibling node. Yes, no, all the nodes, sibling node after the current node which are at the same label. So within a span tag, you can check we have input element, label come under the same label. Yes, no. So it's selecting which node? This node. So we can say these are sibling node. These are following sibling. So following sibling select all the sibling node after the current node at the same label. So this is called as a following sibling. So we can select following sibling or we can select descendant. So here we have discussed how you can select, yes, no, child access, yes, no, how you can access parent access, how you can access descendant access and ancestor element, and how we can select following and following sibling node. I hope it's clear.